What would you sacrifice to give someone you love their greatest dream, only to discover they never believed in yours? Lila had always been the dreamer in her family, the one who saw possibilities where others saw walls. At 28, she'd built a modest but thriving bakery in her small hometown, pouring every ounce of her heart into perfecting recipes and creating a space where people felt at home. Her parents, though, had never understood her passion. To them, her bakery was a childish whim, a distraction from a real career. They'd nod politely when she talked about expanding, their smiles tight, their eyes distant. But Lila loved them fiercely, and when she stumbled across an old photo of them dreaming about Europe, her father pointing at a map of Paris, her mother clutching a guidebook, she knew what she had to do. For years, her parents had spoken of Europe with a wistful longing. Her father, a retired mechanic, would recount stories of French vineyards he'd read about in magazines. Her mother, a former schoolteacher, dreamed of standing before the Colosseum, imagining the echoes of ancient Rome. They'd never had the money or the time. So Lila decided to make it happen. She spent months saving every extra dollar, skipping vacations, and working late nights at the bakery. She planned the perfect 2-week trip: Paris, Rome, and a quaint village in Tuscany. First-class flights, charming hotels, private tours. She wanted it to be unforgettable. When she surprised them with the itinerary on their 40th anniversary, their faces lit up with a joy she hadn't seen since she was a child. Her father hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe. Her mother cried, whispering, "You're too good to us, Lila." The day they left, Lila stood at the airport, waving as they disappeared through security, her heart swelling with pride. She imagined them sipping espresso in a Parisian cafe, laughing under the Tuscan sun. She checked in daily, receiving their giddy texts about croissants and cobblestone streets. Everything seemed perfect, but perfection, Lila would learn, is a fragile illusion. 2 weeks later, they returned, tanned and beaming, with suitcases full of souvenirs and stories. Lila invited them to the bakery for a welcome home dinner, eager to hear every detail. As she set out plates of fresh sourdough and her signature lemon tarts, she noticed her mother's smile falter, her father's gaze flicker. They talked about the trip to the Louvre, the Vatican, but their words felt rehearsed, like lines from a script. Lila brushed it off as jet lag. That is, until she overheard them in the kitchen. She'd stepped away to grab more wine when she heard her father's low voice. "She spent all that money on us, but for what? She's still stuck in that little shop, wasting her life." Her mother's reply cut deeper. "I know. She thinks she's doing something grand, but it's just bread. She could have been a doctor, a lawyer. Instead, she's throwing everything away." Lila froze, the bottle trembling in her hands. The words weren't just criticism, they were betrayal. She'd given them their dream, poured her heart into it, and they saw it as a footnote to her failures. The dinner passed in a blur. Lila smiled, nodded, but inside, she was unraveling. She spent nights replaying their words, questioning every choice she'd made. Had she been foolish to think they'd ever understand her? The bakery, her sanctuary, now felt like a stage where she played a role they'd never applaud. Yet, even in her hurt, she couldn't hate them. They were her parents, flawed and human, bound by their own narrow dreams for her. Weeks later, Lila made a choice. She wouldn't let their words define her. She poured her energy back into the bakery, but this time, for herself. She expanded her menu, hosted community events, and even started teaching baking classes. The bakery thrived, not because she needed their approval, but because it was her dream, and she believed in it. One evening, she invited her parents back. This time, she didn't hide her passion. She showed them the ledger, the glowing reviews, the faces of customers who found comfort in her creations. "This is my life," she said, her voice steady. "I love you, but I don't need you to love this." "I do." Her parents sat in silence, their expressions unreadable. Then her father reached for her hand. "We didn't see it, Lila. We were wrong." Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was a start. Lila learned that love doesn't always mean understanding, and forgiveness doesn't always mean forgetting. She'd given them Europe, but in the end, she gave herself something greater: the courage to live her truth, no matter what anyone said behind her back.